Gill Walton. This talk, I'm going to be talking about the creative process and how ideas for your work can change and evolve, sometimes quite radically over time and through different circumstances. Normally when I do a talk like this, I'm talking about composition or how to mix colours or how a particular painter made his paintings. But this time it's going to be all about my work. I hope you don't mind. So if you've been following my work for a while, you will remember that I was known for very colourful, very pigment-rich paintings. Very opulent paintings on aluminium, like these two here, using lots of very rich imagery and symbolism, little animals in there to depict certain things, eyes on rings, that sort of thing. And there's always lots of jewellery in them, and they're very bright. But a couple of years ago, when all our worlds changed, when the pandemic hit, those paintings didn't seem right. Like most of us, I sort of ground to a halt and couldn't do anything for a while. And then when I did go back into my studio, it was to do really tiny drawings, really small, about 5 inches by 7 inches, maximum size. Literally with just a pencil and paper, I'd be doing little tiny drawings of faces, because I always do faces. I like faces. I think they reflect our humanity. They reflect our state of being, and they're always very expressive. And during the pandemic, I was doing these little icon-type faces in pencil. And then I started to add these silver masks. We eventually all had to start wearing masks. So that was sort of expressing what we were going through at the time. Very different from the paintings I was doing before, and very much a response to exactly what was happening in that moment. It was a way of me processing what we were going through, you know, those really momentous times. It was a way of trying to deal with all of that just through drawings. I wasn't expecting to sell them or anything. They were just really to help me. I ended up selling all of them actually, but that's by the by. And then when the vaccines came out, it coincided with a residency that I was doing at Marchmont House. And during that residency, I developed these all, again, faces, without the masks this time, because we were slightly less confined at that point, and there was a little bit more hope in the world. And I wanted to reflect the hope with these silver wings. They were actually about the breath. It's called my breath series. So the last ones, the silver masks, were keeping all the breath in. These ones, it was all about the breath, being the giver of life, but also it was a spreader of the disease. All of those mixed things. So it was breath, it was lungs, they were wings. And I represented the breath and the mask beforehand in silver leaf. Now, I chose to use silver because silver actually has antimicrobial and antiviral properties. So it's a very healing material. I was also, on these drawings, adding beeswax. Beeswax has healing properties as well. and by brushing the beeswax onto the drawings, it gave a very sort of light grain of wood effect to the drawings, a texture to it. It made the pencil drawing into something very other than just a pencil drawing. It was more than pencil and wax. It became almost fleshy, almost wood-like. It gave the figures this feeling of being grounded or rooted to the spot like a tree. And then the breath in the wings would be lifting and elevating. So 3 very simple materials, graphite, beeswax and silverleaf, that had a lot of meaning in them. And I used genuine silverleaf. You can see a little bit in this piece here. Genuine silverleaf, so it really did have that antimicrobial, antiviral properties to it. These were very successful. They were exhibited widely. The Duke of Buccleuch bought this one. So that's in his collection, along with his Da Vinci and his all his other marvellous works. This one was showed at the Royal Scottish Academy as part of the annual exhibition. It had a whole wall to itself, and it's called Breath of Life. This one was because I was really struck by the plight of young mothers who gave birth during the pandemic, and what a lonely experience that must have been, and yet they were carrying on with the business of bringing new life into the world, as mothers always do. They just get on with it, don't they? So this one was reviewed widely in the Scotsman and the Fleming collection, Breath of Life. So it was a very successful series of work. This one also was exhibited at the Royal Scottish Academy buildings. It was called Breathing. That was very much a response to not only the pandemic, but what was going on with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. So again, reflecting the moment, what was happening. So I'll just show you one more, because this is a drawing that I did of my son during lockdown. So this one, again, it's a similar style to the others, and it's got the silver breath in it, but the drawing itself was drawn with silver point, which is literally a wire of silver that's used to draw onto a prepared bit of paper. It's prepared with a white ground or paint that's slightly gritty, so that it, like sandpaper, it takes very fine traces of the silver into the paper. This one will darken over time. It already has started darkening. And the silver, I left this silver open to the air, so the silver is breathing, very appropriate for a series on breath, and it will darken over time and tarnish, as silver does when it reacts with oxygen, and the drawing itself will go darker, more mellow, more goldeny over time. So the materials were very, very important. Now, pandemic's easing off, it's all ending. But I was asked by the Society of Scottish Artists to produce a piece of work in response to a sculpture by Rodin, a portrait head of Victor Hugo. That's this piece here. This is a piece that I did in response to the Victor Hugo sculpture. Now, I proposed in the drawing to use materials that Rodin would have used. So as well as containing information about how he produced the drawing, what his relationship with Victor Hugo was like, I chose to use bronze and beeswax again. It's a bronze sculpture. Beeswax has been used since Egyptian times to produce bronze sculptures. So it was a pencil drawing with beeswax and also with bronze powder, actual bronze powder. So it's a drawing of the sculpture using the materials that the sculpture was made of. And I'll tell you more about the bronze powder, how to use it in just a little while. So, you can see how my work changed and evolved a lot during this last 2 years. Colour used to be really important, and materials have been taking on a much more important role with me recently. The use of materials, and this word alchemy kept popping up in my head. So alchemy is a very ancient art from 1500s, 1600s. Early scientists were trying to make gold out of base materials such as lead and salts and humours and different base elements. They really believed that they could create gold. They did some early experiments where they produced gold-like substances, and they had a whole philosophy of using these base materials to create something other. So, alchemy. If you put alchemy into search engine or Pinterest, then you pretty quickly come across this image, which is the philosopher's hand. And it was drawn by, there are lots of versions of it now, but this one is the first known one from about 1660. And it was drawn by Isaac Holland, a Dutch alchemist and philosopher, and the symbols on it represent the different elements that they use to try and create gold. So the crown is saltpeter, which is the king of all salts apparently, and the six-pointed star was Roman vitriol. The fish in the palm of the hand was Mercury, and it always sits on a bed of fire. And I really, really love this image. So I decided to use elements of it to make my own works, with the idea that taking these little aspects and putting them into something else, just like the alchemists of old, trying to make gold out of base materials, I was trying to make an image that said something out of these different elements and symbols, making an image that is more than the sum of its parts, if you know what I mean. So I've done a few versions so far, and I'm going to do another one for you here today. Some of the versions have a hand in a cauldron representing the mixing of materials. This is my left hand because I'm left-handed, and I've got the crown and the star on it, and it's made with pencil and graphite, another term for lead, which is what the alchemists used, and bronze powders. And then I've done a few that have hands with faces in them, with all the symbols and the fish for Mercury. So hopefully they're quite evocative images. There's one with a third eye. They're quite evocative images. The symbols that were used in these drawings of the philosopher's hand are actually quite universal symbols. So things like a key is a universal symbol for either coming of age or finding new treasures. That, you know, there's all sorts of things you can read into that. Crowns represent so much, like wealth, aristocracy. But in I do a lot of yoga, and in Buddhist teaching, the crown symbolises the crown chakra, your third eye, which is knowledge and learning. So very, very significant and poignant, I think, for these. And the star chakra is more about connecting with the universe and connecting with universal ideas, which is what I'm all about. So those are the ideas behind my work to this point. And now I'd like to just show you how I go about doing it. Right, so I've started a drawing for you here, and it is based on the hand shape, and I cut out a very simple abstract hand from a piece of paper. Now this is just to mask my very good expensive white watercolour paper that's behind it, so it doesn't get dirty, because I'm quite a messy drawer, so I need to just do something to mask it and protect it. So I cut out the hand, there you are, and used masking tape to just seal around the edges of the shape. And this is just a pencil drawing. It's just from an advertisement, like a Vogue advertisement, this face. It's literally just a copy from a magazine of a drawing, and it's just drawn in pencil, like that. So a fairly simple drawing. Now there are bits on this that I want to be really, really dark. All down here I want to be really dark, and the fingertips I want to be really dark. So what I'm going to use is a little bit of graphite powder. This is the same stuff that you get in pencil lead, but it's in powder format, and it's mixable with water. And I've got some in here and a bit of water, and I am just going to brush it on. Now you can see immediately that this is so much darker and matte and very, very black. It sort of absorbs all the light, doesn't reflect any. It's really, it's lovely. It's like black velvet. It's just delicious. And it's a really good medium to use with. Obviously you can use it really thick and black and dark, like I've got it here, or you can water it down and it and have various different shades of grey with it. But I want very dark. Slightly less dark on this part, and you get, because it's water soluble and you get your brush in there, you get some really lovely textures. Next layer to go on is the beeswax. Now I have got here I know I shouldn't be promoting a specific make, but this is Michael Harding beeswax paste. So it's beeswax that's been dissolved in a little bit of turpentine. And it's genuine turpentine that comes from tree sap, another very natural material, and very lovely. And this particular one, the reason I like this one is because it's been bleached, so it's a very white beeswax. Now, beeswax, you'll know if you've got a beeswax candle or used it as a polish, it's got a yellow tone to it, usually. And it goes yellower over time. Now, Turner used a lot of beeswax in his paintings. Some of them are about, a centimetre deep in just beeswax. But he also painted a lot of dawns and sunsets, so he also had a lot of yellow in his paintings. I'm sure that was by design, but if you are using beeswax paste, just be aware that it will turn yellow over time. This one less so, and I've got quite a lot of dark graphite in this, so the yellow will just warm it up and tone it down. Now, as soon as I start adding this on, the drawing changes really radically. What does happen is I lose some of the detail, but it gains this fleshy quality, and it gains a sort of carved three-dimensional quality. It takes on a sort of lustre and a sheen. So obviously the brush strokes are dragging some of the beeswax along with them, but I really like that. I really like that sort of wood grain, carved, all sinking down sort of effect. So it's pencil and it's beeswax, and the two things together, it's like magic. They become something else. You can add more of it back in, just by going over with more pencil, gives it a bit more definition. And you can also take some of it back out. You can use a clean brush or a piece of rag or whatever. You can take some more of the beeswax and just lift off to bring out some of the highlights, like this. So you can work into it once you've gone over with the brush. I'll lift out some on the top neck there. And that chin should be a bit brighter, I think. See what I've got so far. I'm going to take off this masking paper here so you can see what the drawing looks like properly, and the contrast between the white paper and the graphite, the very dark graphite, will be very lovely. Now I'm having to do this carefully because the masking tape can sometimes drag bits of the paper off with it, and I don't want to damage the paper. This is very thick, lovely watercolour paper, so it's quite expensive. Quite liking that. But it's not finished yet because I'm going to add the symbols, the chemical symbols, and these I have to draw on now. So I'm going to use the same symbols that Isaac Holland used, and I'm just going to draw them on with pencil And then I'm going to use the bronze powder. Very, very faintly with pencil. So it's a crown over the thumb. Okay, so I've drawn on the symbols very loosely in pencil. I'm trying to keep them quite sketchy. Crown with a moon, a six-pointed star, a sun, a salt shaker, and a key. Now's the very fiddly bit. So, in this pot here, I'm just going to mix a little bit of bronze powder. Bronze powders come in various different colours depending on how much copper or brass or whatever they've got mixed in with them. And into the bronze powder, because obviously this wouldn't stick onto the paper as it is, because it is literally just powdered metal. So I've got some bronze medium here, and it's just a kind of resiny substance that gets mixed in with the powder so that it will set. Actually, when I mix it, when I put the droplets in, you can see it turns into liquid gold. It's absolutely delicious. I don't know if you can see that. Right, so I have my powder here and it looks like liquid gold, and I am just going to push it on, try my very hardest not to get the paper dirty. That's the hardest bit actually. I might just draw a fish behind it at some point. I need to just look at this one and decide what I'm going to do with it. Having a face in the drawing obviously makes it something completely different. Because the face always conveys an emotion or a state of being. So that's the symbols, and now I think, just to finish it off, I'm going to put some gold down the arm. Oh, it's lovely. You can see it being sucked into the beeswax and graphite. There we go. One drawing of a philosopher's hand. Now, that might change again. I might look at it when I get it back in the studio and do some fiddling about with it. But that's the process, really. That's how ideas change, how they come about, how just the use of materials can really change the work that you do as well. So now, as we record this, it's November 2022. The art fair is in March, so I can't guarantee that I'll be doing these in March. My work might have changed again completely. I'm actually hoping to do some more sculpture. All this use of materials is making me want to go back to my roots of doing some sculpture as well. So, that's how my work will probably evolve again. It's an ongoing process. It's always changing, which makes it always exciting and always, you're always looking for the next thing and exploring new ideas and exploring different philosophies, exploring different materials to use. So that's what keeps it fresh and keeps it wonderful and makes my job one of the best jobs in the world. Thank you very much.